Thank you, Becky. Hi, everybody. I am so thrilled to be here with you tonight, and I have such amazing women to introduce you to tonight. So you are in for a treat. The first thing I want to say to all of you tuning in tonight is thank you for being a part of this event, for spending your Friday night with me, for your support, for, hopefully purchasing and loving the book. If you haven't yet had a chance to buy the book, you're still welcome here. I hope that tonight will convince you why you do need to buy the book. But regardless of whether you've started reading it or you haven't even had a chance to purchase it yet, welcome to this evening. And like I said, you are in for a treat. So I did want to just share a little bit before we get started about the heart behind the book. And of course, the book is called Turn Toward the Sun, Releasing What If and Embracing What Is. And it was actually supposed to be a very different book. It was supposed to be a book all about letting go and moving on. And there are components of that within the book, but as the year 2020 happened and the pandemic sort of wreaked havoc on our world, and then a few months into the pandemic, both of my parents were diagnosed with cancer back to back. And I started to find myself caught up in the constant what ifs, the worst case scenarios of life. What if my parents die? What if I get COVID and I can't, help take care of my parents? What if the world never goes back to normal? What if? And my dad had this mantra that he would remind me of on a regular basis, which is, we're not going to live in the what ifs, Mandy. We're going to live in the what is. And that really stuck with me. And that really sort of rooted me in, back into the present moment. And I realized, you know what, I think so many of us, especially after this last long 2 years that we've all been through, this dark night that we've all been through, I think that we all need that reminder. I think that we're all struggling with some what ifs. And the ladies that you're going to meet tonight have all struggled with what ifs in various areas of their lives, as I have. But they also have found a way to live fully in the what is. And so before we get started, before I start introducing you to these wonderful women, these readers of mine who are also special to me in different ways, I did want to read just a little quick excerpt from the book in case you haven't had a chance to buy it yet, or in case you haven't had a chance to jump in and start reading yet, or even if you have, I just wanted to let you know kind of what the heart behind the reason why I feel like this concept of letting go of the what if and living fully in the what is so important. So without further ado, the what if is where comparison and discontentment and bitterness and unhappiness happen. You're so stuck in wishing to be somewhere else, doing something else with someone else, living someone else's life, that you never learn to appreciate or value or even like your own life. You spend so much time glancing over the fence to where the grass is seemingly greener. Your own lawn becomes neglected, uncared for, unattended, and overgrown with thistles and weeds. While the what if might feel warm and fuzzy and safe and secure for a little while, it's actually where dreams and happiness go to die. But the what is, yes, it might be where bad things and heartbreaking things and life-altering things sometimes happen, but it's also where immeasurably good things happen and breathtaking things and life-affirming things happen. Because your life, just as it is, the good and the bad, the heavy and the light, is precious, wild, wholly unique, and entirely worth embracing, celebrating, and living just as it is. That's really the heart of the book, and that's the heart of tonight's program. I wanted it to be heavy and light like the book. I wanted there to be, just really transparent, authentic conversations about the hard stuff of life and then the lighter sides of life. So before we get started with my first guest tonight, I did want to announce we do have some prizes that we're giving away. So I'm going to announce there's 3 different winners throughout the course of the program of the evening. So our first winner tonight is Elizabeth Wilson. So yay, congratulations, Elizabeth. You have won a prize and you will be contacted via email in the next couple of days to claim your prize. So congratulations, and stay tuned because there are 2 more prizes and announcements of winners coming a little bit later in the program. So tonight, I really just want you to feel like the way I want you to feel when you read my books. I want you to feel like you're sitting down with a group of girlfriends, having a heart-to-heart, having a little girl talk, getting some really good advice. So I hope that wherever you're at tonight, I hope you're kicked back, comfortable, maybe even in your PJs, and just ready for a wonderful night of real conversations. So the first friend of mine that I want to bring on tonight, her name is Ashley Dawn, and she and I have never met in person, but we have been sisters of the heart for about 11 years now, I believe, and she can correct me if that's not accurate, but she is so special to me, and at some point in life we're going to meet in person. But the reason I wanted you to meet Ashley Dawn tonight is because she is, though she be but little, she is fierce. She is a powerhouse. She's a woman of faith. She is feisty. She is spirited, and she has walked through some very, very challenging, dark, heartbreaking what ifs. And one of the things that Ashley Dawn and I have in common is that we are very, very close with our parents, and we consider our parents to be our best friends. And a few years ago, her best friend, her father, she actually lost him to cancer. And as you know, one of the main points of Turn Toward the Sun is me sharing my journey with my own parents and their own diagnosis of cancer. So I wanted to bring Ashley Dawn on tonight to share about her best friend, her precious father, and how the experience of walking him home and letting him go, what her experience with grief was like, and how she walked through that, and how she came out on the other side. So Ashley Dawn, are you here?
Hello, you've already got me crying.
I know we're gonna cry. And look at your back, there's your dad. Oh my gosh. Okay, I know the waterworks are gonna happen. First of all, I adore you and thank you for being here. I couldn't have honestly imagined doing this without you, and I knew that you would be decked out in your sunflowers. So thank you so much for being a part of this evening. And I did want to give you just do a quick intro and tell everybody who you are.
My name's Ashley Dawn. I would argue and fight anybody. I'm Mandy's biggest fan. We can have fights after. I've been following her, being inspired by you, and you are my sister. We have met. I wore your dress on New Year's Eve. So
yes. Oh my gosh. Yes, you did.
So we're sisters of the traveling dress.
Yes.
Honestly, my soul has met you. My hands haven't. I haven't hugged you, but I will one day. Yeah, my name's Ashley Dawn. I live in Florida. I truly believe that it was a God wink, as you say, when God introduced our Twitter paths so many years ago. And you have walked through every single dark season with me. When we first met, my life was beautiful. It was wonderful. I was working in country radio. You were working in country radio. We were, sharing our hearts. You were sharing it for, single women. I was sharing it for young girls, and God took our paths down different ways. And, every single season, like, here's all the reminders that you
I love it. Oh my gosh. I love it.
Life. Actually, this little book, You Are Enough, with the little sunflower, a fun fact, Daddy called me Sunflower. That was his little name for me.
I remember that.
He hated painting flowers. He was an artist and he hated painting flowers, and he would paint sunflowers. My room is covered in sunflowers that he painted for me. And so when you wrote this book, God speaks to me in sunflowers. And you don't know this, but when I was reading this book, my dad had just been diagnosed.
Oh.
And so you've been holding my hand through every step of the crazy what ifs of my life. You're never been to Vegas, but my luggage has helped me through betrayal and divorce and abandonment. Your beautiful uncertainty helped me through really questioning my life and like, God, I love you and I'm honoring you, but my life sucks. Like, I'm not liking this. I had this picture perfect thing that I had planned and it's not going the way I planned. And when I read Beautiful Uncertainty, this beautiful little book right here, I was like, you know what? There is uncertainty in my life and there is beauty. And it was, you were reading all my mail.
Well, I knew I should have brought tissues and I didn't, but I guess I'm just going to grab this blanket behind me. So let's go ahead and dive right in because I do want to, I want to talk about your sweet daddy and your process. I think something that I've come to realize is such a beautiful aspect of life, and I feel like that you will most certainly agree with me, is the full circle relationship that we have with our parents, how they raise us and take care of us. And then when they get older and when they battle illnesses and things, we take care of them. And I know that you very much took care of your dad at the end, but I know that you actually just mentioned, I had no idea that you were reading You Are Enough when he was diagnosed, but I want to go back to that day because I know what my day when my parents were diagnosed was like, but what were the what ifs that were just firing in your brain when your family received that diagnosis?
So the crazy thing is my dad had this little teeny spot on his chest and I kept telling him like, Daddy, that's not normal. Like something's wrong there. And I was living in Cincinnati at the time. And I, at the time went to a dermatologist and I was diagnosed with pre-cancerous skin cancer on my back. I had
I've dealt with that too. Yeah.
Like all the parallels.
Yeah.
And, which by the way, your face looks incredible and you're so beautiful. And when you walked through that season, it helped me because my entire back is covered in scars. And so when you shared vulnerably, you know, your scars, which you do in your writing, you share your scars. And so I had went to the dermatologist. They had found this spot on my back. I had to go through extensive Mohs surgery. And as I was going through it, I'm like, my dad needs to go. So I convinced him to go. Well, he was a veteran. And so, and this is where the what ifs come in for me, because I torment myself with the fact we've never had a lot of money and he didn't have some big savings. He was an artist. He was a struggling artist a lot of his life. He's the most amazing man in the world, but he didn't really care about money. He cared about people. And that's great, but not when it comes to doctors. And so he was a veteran and there was no veterans hospital where we lived. The closest one is 2.5 hours away. So for him to get approved to go to the doctors, he had to wait, and he waited 3 years. And in those 3 years, it metastasized and became full-blown squamous cell carcinoma. And most people recover from it. So if anybody's watching and they're thinking, well, I just got that diagnosis, like, oh my gosh, no, most people recover from it. I don't want this to scare anybody or, anyone fearful. Doctors are incredible. If you go to the doctor, early detection is key. You can get healed. I believe there is hope. Absolutely. Where my dad struggled was he didn't have doctors that were helping him, and it sat. And so while it was sitting, it was getting bigger and going deeper. And so most people, don't die from squamous cell. So when I was checked out, I said, Daddy, you need to go get checked out. Well, I flew down, I drove him to the doctors, and we got the news, hey, it's metastasized. And it's like, you almost black out.
Yes.
Like the room, it's like, you're not even living. Like
that's what my experience was like.
You just black out. And like, I have this watch and it's a picture of me and my dad, like burned into wood. I don't know if you can see it, but it's broken and it doesn't tell time. And I wear it because at that time was broken. Yeah. There's still beauty, right? Like I can still remember my dad, but time stood still. And so I just remember driving home. We had a 2.5 hour drive home and we went over the options for chemo and radiation and all kinds of stuff. And your just head is spinning. And I just remember praying and just saying, God, I know you love my dad. And you know that my dad is the most important person in the world to me. Please heal him. And I believed that God would heal him, and God did. And so through the course, he would get healed, and we'd be like, yes, yes, this is amazing. And then it would come back. And so he'd have to go through radiation again, and then he'd get healed. And then we'd be like, yes, yes. And then it would come back. But in those moments, when you let go of the what if and you embrace the what if,
Yeah.
he worshiped God, and he came closer to God in those moments. He used to sing How Great Thou Art while he was getting radiation. And so it's such a heaven kiss to me every time I hear it. I remember my daddy.
Yeah.
And even in those ugly moments where he was in excruciating pain, God still prepared these little sweet moments where when I hear that song, I remember my daddy smiling and singing and trusting God. And I'm really grateful because he had a YouTube channel and he shared his faith. And I remember one of the videos he posted, he said, God is bigger than cancer, and I'm not worried about it. And I can't tell you how many times I rewatch that video to remind myself when I start the what ifs and when I start thinking, well, I could have saved him, right? Like you said, I took care of him, like you took care of your parents, and you were holding it all together, even with the anxiety, even with everything. It's like, I'm superwoman. I'm helping my parents, and I really, even up until the last moment of his life, never believed that he was going to be gone. I was like, you're going to be healed. You are going to be healed. I'm going to read like you did all the books.
Yeah.
You're going to eat all the food. You're going to have
Oh yeah. I had the whole, I just knew that when my parents first got diagnosed, I was like, and by the way, you guys, if you hear an otherworldly sound in the background, my cat decides at the worst moments to start howling. So he's fine. No one's killing him. He just feels like he needs to get attention. So just a little side note, but something that I feel like that, and I wonder if this was the case with you, and if he keeps it up, I might have to Sir Paul, we need to, no, hold it together, buddy. Okay. So one of the things that has been so key with me in walking with my parents through the journey is I feel like the moments are so precious and sacred because they're holding their own and they're doing good right now. But you never know with anybody in this world that we live in. So how important was it to you in those moments to stay fully present with your dad? And how were you able to do that without getting stuck in your head and just be there with him in those moments?
So one of the biggest things, like my entire life, like you and your parents are best friends. In high school, I'd rather hang out with my parents than anybody else in the world. Like I genuinely, my parents are awesome. And so I loved spending time with them. I mean, my daddy gave me kisses on the forehead every night before I went to bed, prayed over me when I, drive to school. Like we were just best friends. We did everything together. We got best friend tattoos when I was 15. So my dad was a tattoo artist. And I tattooed boxing gloves on him with my name, and he tattooed boxing gloves on me with his name.
So
and
great.
So, yeah. And so what kid has best friend tattoos with their dad?
Right. Exactly.
But through it, I would just remember, even if I just have this moment, this is gold. And one of the biggest things that helped me is it's so rare to have a good dad. Most friends have terrible dads that were either not there, hurt them, abuse them, whatever. And so I would just keep in the back of my head, Ashley Dawn, even if you had one day with your dad, it's more than a lot of people do. And I just kept, thank you, God. Thank you for this moment that I'm in right now. And even when he was in the hospital and when he started, he had some issues with his arm, and me and my mom were his nurse and we took care of him. And even in that, God really was speaking to me, but I would go through our pictures when he was healthy, and I would look at those pictures to remind myself, this is my dad, and I would keep that fresh in my mind. And I would just remember all the good moments that we had and add to that as this is another good moment. It's a different good moment, but it's a good moment. And like I said, the entire time I never looked at it as anything bad was going to happen, but at the same time, I was prepared, like you, anxiety, you over prepare you. Absolutely. And I'm an overthinker. So I'm like a million different scenarios in my head, thinking okay, something could happen to me. Like, here I'm worried about my dad. Something could happen to me. I
Right.
need to soak this moment up. And I did. Like, he probably got annoyed with me because I didn't let him alone. And I was like,
I
we
bet
are.
he didn't. I bet he didn't. And that's the thing too, that you learn to appreciate. It completely realigns your priorities and the way that you look at everything. And you learn to go from thinking that life has to be all these grand highs to realizing that, hey, it's a good day if mom felt good today. It's a good day if mom ate good today. It's a good day. If we're all still here, it's a good day. And so I think that there's not, and I talk about this in the book, there's not a silver lining to cancer. So I'm not going to try to find one. But if there is a blessing at all as you're walking through the journey, it is realizing just how precious the littlest moments are and just learning to appreciate the smallest moments and learning to find joy and richness in the smallest, most seemingly insignificant, simplest moments. I feel like you're looking for something.
Yeah. So I like tried to like underline stuff, and
Yeah.
like in the first chapter, where were you when your world stopped turning?
Yeah.
I just remember, like, and you go on and you were just saying like, where is it? Okay. But then around 7:30 p.m. on that September night, as I was hanging out with my parents, like any other pandemic night, my dad's phone rang, and it was the doctor who had removed the cyst and who also happened to be a family friend. We had been waiting for him to call with the results of the biopsy, slightly nervous about what he would say, but not overly anxious. But as soon as I saw my dad's face, I knew the news was not good, and so did my mom. When I read this, all of those emotions came flooding back. And I just remember the doctor had taken my dad to the side, and he had basically said, to my dad, like, Bobby, that's my dad's name, like, I need to talk to you. I don't want to talk to you in front of your wife and your daughter. Like, I need to talk to you. And I will never forget the look on his face.
Yeah.
It was like all the joy was gone. My dad was always the most joyful person in the world. He just had this big smile. And even when things were terrible, he'd be smiling because he didn't want to let me or my mom down. And he used to tell me all the time, he's like, Ash, if anything happens to me, promise me you won't get mad at God. Because a lot of people do. You get bad news and you're like, forget you.
Yeah.
And I remember praying and just asking God, like, why? My dad, he's an amazing man. He does so much for so many people. Why do bad things happen to the best people?
Yes.
There's terrible people doing terrible things. Why don't bad stuff happen to them?
Yeah.
And I just remember God so softly just putting on my heart, I know he's your dad and you love him, but he's my son and I love him more. And so I clung to that. And I don't know if you saw it on my Facebook, but I just changed my picture to a picture of my dad when we got the diagnosis. And I put GLHM, God loves him more. And so when I would get anxious, when I would get overwhelmed, when the world was spinning, and honestly, I just wanted it to end and I just wanted to run away.
Yeah.
I would remember God loves him more. Before he's my dad, even before my mom is my mom, they are his children. He created them with a purpose and a plan. He loves them more than I can ever imagine to love them. And in grief, watching my mom walk through grief was almost harder than losing my dad.
Yeah.
And I'm sure watching your dad hurt for your mom and your mom hurt for your dad, watching each other walk through this as a daughter that loves, and you probably want to take it all away. I want to take it all away. And the fact that we can't, like you said, when you gave up control and you were like, okay, Len, I'm giving up control. And then this happens. And it's like, when your world is out of control and you want so badly to fix it, you just want to fix it, and you'll do anything to fix it, whether it's reading all the books, praying, trying to figure out, like, I can't tell you how many hours and hours I spent reading books on how I could fix it, as if I was a doctor.
I know, same. And I want to touch on what you said a moment ago, though, because it was hard. It's been heart-wrenching to watch my parents walk through this together, but then it's also been this very beautiful thing to watch, because you truly see what love is. You truly see what in sickness and in health means. when you watch your parents walk through either one or both of them having cancer and taking care of one another. And again, that's another one of those moments that's just completely realigned my entire viewpoint of love. So I'm sure that was, I have no doubt that was the case for you as well, because I know how much your parents were in love. I've read their story. I know you post about them all the time, and they have this amazing love story. And so I think it's almost like this rare privilege in a really, it's like again, the tension of heavy and light, because you would never want to walk through this in a million years if you had the choice. But since you are walking through it, getting to see these beautiful portraits of true love, it really is this very unique gift in a way. But I want to, and you and I could literally sit here and talk for 2 hours, but I want to kind of get to the grieving process. And when you did, because I feel like that's so important to touch on. I think so many people, I've heard so much feedback from readers who have lost someone to COVID or have lost someone, over the last 2 years, or so I feel like so many people are grieving, and you went through, the loss of not just your dad, but your best friend. So when the end had come and you had to let him go, what was that grieving process like for you?
So the night that he went was like the most hard and magical night ever, and in those little God winks. So the nurse, we had been living in the hospital for like 3 months, and one of the nurses actually was from the church that I gave my heart to Jesus when I was a little girl. And it is the tiniest little church in our town. Yeah. So it's not common that he would go there. So that was a God wink. And earlier in the day, I was sitting in the chair by the window, and I hadn't left the hospital room. Like, food was brought into me if I could even eat. And I took showers in the room. Like, I did not leave my dad's side because I knew any moment could be the last. And so I'm sitting in the chair and I'm looking out the window, and I'm really struggling. Like, I'm like, God, please don't take my dad. Please don't take him. And of course, going over my head, like, if I would have done this, if I would have done this, if I would have gotten a different doctor, like, as if it would have changed anything.
Right.
And I'm looking out the window, and I just saw my dad come over to me, healthy and happy in his favorite faded flannel, and hug me and kiss my cheek. And I was like, how is this happening? Like, you're in bed. Like, but I saw it. I saw it in my eyes. I felt it in my heart. And he hugged me. And I wrote down in my journal, 11:45. And I didn't think anything of it. And I'm just writing and looking like, what is going on? Am I losing my mind? I haven't slept in 3 days. Like, maybe I'm hallucinating. I don't know what's going on. And so the day goes on, and my mom's getting ready to take off her shoes. It's getting late to go to sleep. And I stopped her and I said, don't take your shoes off.
Yeah.
And she said, what? And I said, don't take your shoes off. And you're talking to the doctors, and we're playing, hymns and different things. And I just felt a quickening in my spirit to run over to my dad's side. And I ran over there, and I held his hand, and he breathed in and he breathed out, and it was his last breath. And I was so honored that I would feel quickened to go over there and to hold his hand, that I would get that moment. Yes. And I looked at the clock, and it said 11:45. Wow. And I was like, God was preparing me earlier today for this. Yeah. And of course, at first it's shock. You don't want to believe it. And the hardest thing was, like, they had asked me, do you want to stay here with them? And I was like, no, he's not here anymore. Like, this is his body. He's not here. And I remember driving home, and we looked up at the moon, and the moon was the biggest moon I'd ever seen. And it like stretched across the sky. I don't know if you saw the picture that I posted, but it was almost like God was saying, it's going to be okay. And it was like calming me down. But I felt like I had let my dad down, because he had always been with me. And I was driving away from the hospital, and he wasn't there. And so I took 2 months off of work, which my work was incredible. I worked for a Christian school as a teacher, and I couldn't even put clothes on. Just knowing that the most important person in my life was not going to be there anymore wrecked me. We ended up having his celebration of life on Veterans Day, because he was a veteran, and it was a couple months later, and the most beautiful, like, service ever. he was a biker, and the entire church was packed out with all different bikers wearing their stuff, like talking about what an amazing man my dad was. And the greatest thing about it, I had him preach his own service. And he had told me, he's like, Ash, if anything happens to me, do not have a service. And I said, Daddy, if you're in heaven, I'm throwing a party and I'm inviting all your friends. And so I did. And his favorite story in the Bible was a prodigal son, because he never felt worthy of God's love. And so his biggest thing was to show people how loved they were, and that God never gives up on you. No matter how bad you think you messed up, you'll never mess your life up enough. God loves you too much. And so he spoke his own service, and I just remembering the peace that was just like coming over me. I will tell you, so it's been 4.5 years. So October last year was 4 years. And you see the tears.
It's been that long.
I know. And like this weekend's Father's Day, and every event, every holiday, every whatever, it's hard, but every day's hard. And so it's really the people you surround yourself with. I've went to grief counselors. I know you're a big advocate of therapy.
Yes, absolutely.
Huge, because you do with your thoughts and your feelings, and they can overwhelm you. And man, it's taken me down depressing roads, and I've walked through more things than I like to admit. And my counselors and therapists have really helped me. So I'm an advocate with you.
Yes.
But I will say not every day is bad. There are those God winks. I call them heaven kisses. One of those heaven kisses was one of my friends. So for Christmas, one of my friends is a photographer, and she does a lot for veterans that lose their lives in battle, and for their kids, she does pictures with their kids. So my mom has really been struggling more than me. I lost a best friend. She lost a life partner, and she's still struggling to this day. And so I contacted my friend, and I said, I really want to bless my mom, and I want her to know that my dad's with her. And so she did pictures for my mom. I didn't know, but she surprised me with this. And I lost my mind. And I will say, this has helped me so much. So if anybody is struggling, like when I have hard days, I just look at this and I'm reminded, like, he may not be here physically, but every moment that we've shared is still there. Every breath that I take, I live out his legacy. And if, somebody's watching and they have a loved one that's passed and they're really struggling, like, you're carrying on the legacy that they started. And so I highly encourage you to maybe get with a photographer. If you want to, have Heather Speranza, she's incredible. She's all over. She travels everywhere. But like, this picture just reminds me, like, I'm not alone when I feel like I'm alone. And so that has helped me. Your books, honestly, I can't tell you how many times I read them over and over and over again, especially this little beauty right here.
Thank you so much.
God speaks to me in sunflowers, and I know you love flowers, and you post
sunflowers.
all the time. You wear them, you walk in fields of them. Every time you post a sunflower, you think you're just posting a pretty picture with your pretty flowers. God's speaking. He's probably speaking to all your other readers. This book is your best book yet. Like, all your books have been good. This is a whole nother level of good. This book.
You're gonna make me cry.
Well, good. I'm glad, because I've been crying the whole time. So start.
Well, I've been crying the whole time too, but I don't have a tissue here, so I'm like, what am I gonna do? I gotta
get that blanket behind you. This book is so good. And I mean, I know a lot of it is that the people that helped you put this book together, just giving you free range and creativity to be your beautiful, glorious Mandy self. But this is your best book. And if anybody's watching this and has not got it yet, you need to buy 2 copies, because you're going to end up needing to give one to a friend, because you want a hug from God. You want a hand when you're going through something to hold yours. This book, oh my God, I've read it 4 times.
Oh my gosh, girl.
Got it 2 days ago. Like,
well, this has just been such a powerful conversation, as I knew it would be. And I honestly, like I said, I believe that you and I could probably sit here and talk for the next till 10 o'clock tonight, but I just want to just thank you for sharing your story, your dad, I know that that's a very, very sacred story, and I don't take it lightly that you chose to be vulnerable and share it here. So thank you for sharing your heart and your dad and your story and your life with all of us, and we are better for it. And you know I adore you. And one of these days we are going to meet in person. We're going to make it happen.
Yes, we are.
Yes.
I love you. Thanks for having me.
You. I love you so much. Bye, girl.
Bye.
Oh, wow. Okay. So that was incredibly, incredibly powerful, as I knew that it would be. I am, just as excited and honored for you guys to meet my next wonderful guest. Her name is Kathy. We've only been connected for a short time, but I feel like that we are, again, sisters of the heart. She actually sent me, which I thought was just, I set it here so I could show you guys. She sent me this beautiful sparkly tumbler that matches the book cover perfectly with my name on it yesterday. And she actually makes those, which is, I mean, good grief, look at the talent. But so I'm so excited for you all to meet Kathy. I'm so excited to get to chat with Kathy. Kathy has been going through a different kind of grief, and that is the grief of potentially, being on the other side of a 35-year marriage. So Kathy, I want to first of all welcome you and thank you for being a part of tonight and for being willing to share a very vulnerable story with all of us. And I would love it if you just want to do a quick introduction.
Oh boy, that was tough. That was a tough one to get through.
Yeah.
I also live in South Florida.
Yes, and you two, you and Ashley Dawn need to meet. That needs to happen.
We are so close.
Yes.
I actually, like I said yesterday with you, I don't know how I found you, but I am so grateful
Me too.
that I did.
Me too.
The group that you have is very supportive.
Yes.
And helpful. I have not been this emotional in a long time.
Well, you know what? You came to the right place for it, because we're here for some girl talk, and if the tears fly, then we're just going to let them fly. So just tell us a little bit about you.
I have been married for 35 years. I got married when I was 19. Was with my husband since I was 17. So in February, I found myself alone. Very difficult.
Yes.
The thing that I find helps is my daughter and my granddaughter. And what I found myself doing was living in the, well, what if I'm alone forever? What if I can't live by myself? What if I can't support myself? What if I'm going to be unsure of where I'm going to live or how I'm going to support myself now being by myself?
Well, and that's what I wanted to kind of go back to. I wanted to kind of, I know it's hard. So whatever you feel like sharing and not sharing is fine. And this is the cat who is being so loud. So this is the one right here. I'm hoping that maybe he'll chill out now. But let's talk about the moment that it sort of all fell apart. I'm assuming that there was a moment when you and your husband had a conversation, and he let you know that it was not, that he was walking away. And so what was that? I mean, I feel like the bottom had to have dropped out in that moment. So
I'm a very strong person. If you push me, I'm going to push you back 10 times harder. And when it was told to me, I'm done with this, I'm miserable, I want a divorce, there's no counseling, there's no nothing, and I'm moving out. My initial was, okay. And I immediately got in the car, drove down to the courthouse, got divorce papers, and I was just headstrong into, that's what you want. I'm not going to fight you. I'm not going to beg you. I'm not going to sit here and try and convince you that you should stay. But I did find myself constantly thinking, should I fight for it? Should I beg? Should I plead? Should I do this? But
And I'm
if
sure
this-
there were a lot of like, okay, well, what if I had done this differently? Or what if I had done a little bit more of this? Or what if,
of
and I'm
course,
sure at some point, even though initially you were, oh, you know what, I'm good. I'm assuming at some point the grief fell and you
Yeah.
probably had a moment of, oh my gosh, okay, this is over. What was that experience like?
it's very hard to even explain, to
Mm-hmm.
even put into words. It's unbelievable. It was like walking outside of my body and looking at a life that I never even imagined. But at the same time, it made me look at the situation to be, well, I can't count on him.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody that I should have been able to count on. What if something horrible happened and I got sick or hurt? Or could I count on this person to be there for me? And what he proved to me was that I couldn't.
Yeah.
So at that point, I had to start getting strong and think about myself and what I needed to do to heal myself and not consume myself with him anymore. And there are
Say
times,
that's such a healthy mindset because so many people, so many women, probably myself included in your situation, would probably still be like, you know, in the fetal position in the corner. And the thing that I've admired in just the short time that I've known you is watching you say, you know what, my life isn't over. A new chapter of my life is beginning. And I feel like it's that spirit. I think it's unique. I think you're a fighter. I think you're a survivor. And I think, you know, I think that you've already been through this process of like beginning to start to let go and find a way to move on. And where do you think that inner strength came from?
I just had to pull myself out of a dark place. And a lot of times it's forcing myself to go and do something different or go and do something new. Or recently I went with my girlfriend to a place where we used to vacation as a husband and wife a lot. And I just had to make new memories in old places.
And what was that like? Was it empowering when you found yourself in these
Yes,
places and
yes,
you're like, no, you know what? I'm going to reclaim. I actually have a chapter in my previous book,
yes,
Don't Believe It's White, where I talk about reclaiming your territory and X doesn't get to mark the spot. And so you actually did that. You actually said, no, you know what? Not today, sir. I'm going to reclaim my territory. So what did that feel like?
it was the best. I had so much fun. It was very freeing. I can't even tell you the last time I ever went on a girls' trip.
Yeah.
I was not consumed with, well, I wonder what he's doing, or I wonder if he's going to be mad for this, or, you know, my whole life has been consumed with someone else and making someone else happy and not myself.
Yeah.
So it's important for me to do that now.
Right.
And along the end of our marriage, I know it wasn't wonderful. There were issues throughout. I think I gave up years ago fighting or even trying so hard because I did the things that made me happy. Spending all my time,
Right.
available time with my granddaughter, and not giving him the attention. He needs attention constantly. But what made me happy and felt good for me was spending my time with my granddaughter.
Right.
And it upset him. It didn't matter to me.
Yeah.
So I think I started emotionally disconnecting from the relationship even years ago. So maybe that's why it is a little bit easier now.
Yeah.
And I have another grandbaby on the way. So I
Yeah.
have things in my life that I focus on now that are the positives, and
Yes.
not your books, not living in the what ifs,
Yeah.
and concentrating on now, and what I do have has helped.
Yes. Yeah. And I know when you and I were talking on the phone yesterday, or was it yesterday? You said it's not that I never struggled with the what ifs after, everything's fell apart. I did, but it's that I didn't, you didn't let them continue to keep you paralyzed. You didn't let the what ifs hold you captive. You said, you know what? Okay, this is what it is. There's nothing I can do about this at this point. I'm going to move forward into this new chapter. And yes, it might be a little scary and uncomfortable and uncertain, and it's a place I haven't been in 35 years. But darn it, I'm going to, do it with my whole chest. And I'm going to go on these girls' trips, and I'm going to experience life in a way that I haven't been able to do in many, many years. So that has been something just that I've found so cool about you. And I'm wondering, what is something about this new era of your life? Because there's a lot of uncertainties, and then there's a lot of things to, again, the what ifs, there's a lot of unknowns. But what is something about this new chapter of your life that you're really excited about?
Spending time on myself, and
Yeah.
I don't even remember what I was like before having someone else.
Yeah.
Um,
So good.
and just enjoying myself.
Yeah.
Not relying on someone else to make me happy.
Right.
And I know moving forward, if I'm ever in another relationship,
Yeah.
who knows if I'm at this point, I don't even want that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I'm not going to be dragged along on the ride. I'm going to do what's important for me and what makes me happy, whether that person likes it or not.
And they can either join you on the ride or they can get out of the car, but
Right.
you're not stopping anymore. And I
Right.
absolutely love that about you, Kathy. And gosh, I'm just so, so grateful that we have connected, and just to have you a part of the single woman community, and so thankful. I know that this was not easy to chat about tonight. I know that it's still new and fresh and vulnerable. And so thank you for being willing to share your story and your heart with all of us. And I just adore you. So thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Well, we'll see you later.
All right.
And next, y'all, I'm going to, let me announce another winner real quick. Okay, so we have some prizes, some giveaways, and we have 3 winners tonight. I've already announced one, Elizabeth Wilson. You are one of our winners of a fabulous prize. You'll be receiving an email in the next couple of days to claim your prize. Our second winner tonight is Mitzi Edwards. So congratulations, Mitzi. You will be receiving a prize. So just look for that email in the next couple of days. And I'll be announcing one more winner at the end of the program. So stay tuned for that. And we might go a little bit past 7 o'clock Eastern, 8 o'clock, or I'm sorry, 8 o'clock Eastern, 7 o'clock Central tonight. I hope you'll stick around, because I think we've talked about some heavier stuff, and I think we're about to get into some lighter stuff, and I think that it's going to be fun and funny, and I'm excited for all of you to meet these next 2 ladies. Danielle and Tiffany are the ladies that I'm bringing on next. They are both fierce and feisty and amazing and unique. And I've actually had the wonderful privilege of meeting Tiffany in person. We met a few years back. I was in Atlanta on a work trip, and I got to connect with Tiffany and meet her in person, and that was just the coolest thing. And then Danielle and I have bonded for life over our mutual dating app fiascos. So both of these ladies are just have such unique perspectives on singleness and dating. And so I wanted this final little bit of our program tonight just to kind of be like a singles roundtable. We'll definitely be taking your questions if you have any questions. But yeah, I'm super excited to kind of just get into it and have a little girl talk and talk about all things dating and dating in 2022 and dating apps and ghosting and just all the many shenanigans that come along with modern dating. So thank you, Tiffany and Danielle, for being here.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, real quick, Tiffany, I wanted to, before we kind of launch into our, girl talk, I wanted you to just kind of share, because something that has been just super impressive about you to me is that you are a woman with career ambitions, and you followed those career ambitions despite all the many what ifs that could have stopped you to Atlanta to pursue a career in television. So I just wanted you to share a little bit about just what that experience was like and how you sort of found the courage to really be bold enough to go after that dream.
Well, first of all, it's hard to come after those two fantastic ladies we just spoke to. I don't think I've welled up that much since the conclusion of This Is Us.
Yes.
So I know I'm just so honored to be around so many just incredible women,
Yes.
even virtually. For me, my story, I am the child of two immigrants from the beautiful island of Barbados.
Yes.
So naturally, it's just in my DNA to, just work and be ambitious. And, from a very young age, I just had this love of being a storyteller, and even being a 7-year-old, getting up in the adults' business and starting conversations and just seeing how long they would talk for. And
real quick, we have people commenting, "Hey, Barbados in the house."
Hey,
so we have
Barbados.
Yeah. Okay, sorry. Go ahead.
Just an absolute love for storytelling. So that lent itself to journalism. And, even in middle school, when the popular kids wouldn't let me on the newspaper staff, I went and I wrote for the city newspaper. So I've always just had an ambition just to be a journalist. And then that, really grew into me pursuing news in Orlando and in Jacksonville. And I just got so many tremendous opportunities. And even looking back on it, it never really, even during the hard times, it never really occurred to me to give up and abandon my dream. And God knows there were some hard times. There were some times when I said, I just need to go home, live with my parents, and, forget it all. But it just never occurred to me to leave that behind. Now, I will say that, I was also in a place where I was kind of also scared to take the next leap in some ways, where I thought, if I'm struggling here, the next opportunity, how will I ever be ready for that? How will I be better for, bigger demons on whatever, next step I take. And so I was kind of almost making myself smaller in some ways and believing sometimes my harshest, critics. But, it was then that, God really said, okay, if you're not going to do this, I am going to force you. So, so I was like, well then, and let me tell you, when God pushes you to do something, he pushes. He pushes me all the way from Jacksonville, Florida to Atlanta. And I was like, what am I doing here? And, you know, I'm so grateful. It was a scary time, but it was such a blessing. And then over time, you know, I still made my way through some more hardships, but I think that really just built me to be the more confident journalist that I am now.
A
And
journalist who just happens to work for who again?
CNN, thank you very much. And
Okay, talk about a boss babe right there. So yeah, I mean, you had a dream. You said, you know what, I'm gonna go after it. You did. You realized it. You're living it. So that is just phenomenal.
I feel really blessed. And sometimes I have to be at work at 2:00 in the morning.
Yeah.
But I still walk in the building. I look at that banner and I know I have the privilege to inform people about the world they're living in. And that makes those early wake up calls just worth it every morning.
Absolutely. Well, I again, I'm so thrilled that you're here, Tiffany, and I know we're gonna have some fun chatting dating here in a minute. But Danielle, we have to introduce Danielle because Danielle has quickly become like my soul sister. I mean, she's been my reader forever. I mean, for years. How long, Danielle? Do you know?
Probably about 10 years.
Yeah, I knew you had been with me for a while, but it's just been here recently that we really bonded, you know, outside of social media, and we text and we talk on the phone for hours, and we're both going through this ridiculous, you know, dating app process. And but you are also, in addition to just being an amazing friend, you are a single mama, and you have
I am.
3 children. So I'm just wondering, how is that? Because I'm only imagining there must be like a million what ifs that come along with every day of being a single mom. So how do you balance that with trying to be fully present with your kids?
A whole lot of Jesus and a whole lot of caffeine. No, I mean, you know, I think being a mom, there's a lot that comes with it, but it just really comes naturally to me. So I guess when you say balance, I'm more just balancing time more than, you know, it's just being a single mom is not easy, but I've been rocking it for a while. So you know, this dating app situation means I'm probably going to be rocking it a lot longer. So it's fine.
Right. I mean, okay, so that's like a perfect segue. Let's just get right into it. So Tiffany, I don't know where you're at with the dating apps. Are you on dating apps or no?
I gave myself a solid 6 months to really go gung-ho on the dating apps.
Okay.
And I just came up with one date, and as kind as he was we just weren't on the same page.
Not a match, right?
It wasn't a match. And I'll say that I'd been doing dating apps for years prior to that, and he was really the only match that ever led to a date. So just the odds and numbers being what they were. And also just, I don't know if this is just possibly taking things too negative, but also hearing the low success rate women of color have on the dating apps. I just felt, why am I wasting my time? I mean, if I want to be rejected, I can do it on the real world. I don't need my phone to do it.
But let me interject and say this, because I think something you said, I latched onto. It is so important. You gave yourself a solid 6 months. You gave it the college try. You said, okay, because here's what I'm guilty of doing. I get on the app for a week and I have just these, or 2 weeks or a month or whatever, and I have these horrific experiences and these disappointing experiences, and I get ghosted, and I just say, okay, I'm done, and I walk away. So I never give it like, and that's what I'm really trying to do right now. I'm trying to say, okay, I'm not going to just tuck my tail between my legs and run if things go wrong, because they're going to go wrong. It's dating. Of course, things are going to go wrong. So I love that you went into it. And I think this is so important in any aspect of dating. you have to go into it with boundaries, with a plan, with a strategy. And you did that. So talk a little bit about like, okay, how did you come up with, okay, I'm going to give it a solid, like, what was the thinking behind that?
Well, in my on and off years of doing dating apps, I should have known the first red flag was when I think it was Match.com said I had a 78% match rate with this guy who had a huge tattoo on his face, like he was a member of the Insane Clown Posse. And I was like, Match, what are we thinking here? Who do you think I am? So
God love him. Okay, disclaimer,
God
we
love
love tattoos.
yes.
But the tattoo on the face, you're probably not necessarily great with life decisions if you know. So
And
okay.
you know, I just said, yeah, this is not for me. So but then I said, you know what, I really want to be intentional about,
Yes.
you know, giving the dating apps a try. And if this is the new way that everyone's getting out there, then I need to be part of the game if I really want to get myself into a relationship.
Yeah.
And I just kept finding just the same kind of disappointments over and over again. And in a way, it giving myself that solid 6 months to really make the effort. It really let me know it's like, okay, it's not that I'm not trying to put myself out there. It's not that I'm not trying to find my person.
Right.
Maybe the right person is just not available right now.
Right.
And, you know, I mean, I still struggle with is that right person for me even out there? I'm trying to hold on to hope for that, but I'm not going to keep beating myself up and be at war with my singleness just because I can't find that right person right now.
That's so good. At war with my singleness. I love that. I love it. And yeah, like I said, I think that's so important to set a boundary for yourself and to say, okay, I'm going to try this for 6 months. I'm going to try this for 3 months, and then to really stick it out and really see it through. And then if you see it through and nothing happens and you're like, okay, I'm done, then absolutely be done. But I think realizing, and this is something that I've been talking a lot on my, like when I do my live chats on Facebook, realizing that dating is like anything else in life. It's a journey. It's working toward an ultimate goal, which is, well, for most of us, it's working toward an ultimate goal. For some people, it's working toward other things that we won't get into. But most of us are working toward the ultimate goal of finding that life partner. And any goal that you work toward, there's going to be setbacks. There's going to be disappointments, as I'm sure you experienced in your career. You didn't just wake up one day working for CNN. I didn't just wake up one day a published author. You know, I went through rejections and setbacks. So I think it's so important to remember that, you know, dating is just like anything else. And I'm talking to myself here too, because Danielle, better than anybody, knows that I'm every other day. I'm like, okay, I'm done. I'm getting off the apps now. And then I'm like, no, I really haven't given it a fair shake. So until I give it a fair shake, I'm going to just hang in there. I'm going to realize that 1 or 2 or 3 or 10 disappointments doesn't mean that something great isn't waiting right around the bend. So I do want to bring Danielle in here because well, first of all, Danielle, in the comments, people have been like mentioning your Frosted Flakes thing right and left. Like you have started and we're going to talk about that for anybody who's like, what the heck are you talking about? But Danielle and I actually recently had the very unique experience of essentially, and Danielle's in Louisiana and I'm in Tennessee. So we're just to clarify. And then Tiffany, of course, is in Atlanta. So we have all different dating pools. We're not all trying to date the same guys. That would get real weird real fast. But Danielle and I were both kind of ghosted around the same time in a very similar fashion. So Danielle, let's talk about that. Let's talk about that ghosting experience, because I think that you came out of it relatively unscathed. I know you had a few days of disappointment, but I think that on the other side of it, it helped you kind of recalibrate your standards a little bit. So let's talk a little bit about the ghosting heard around the world.
Such a phenomenon.
Yeah.
So, I think as a single mom, and I just kind of want to throw this out there, it kind of adds an extra layer of difficulty because obviously, we don't have a lot of time to meet people the traditional way. And then you're online, you don't really know who you're meeting. And so, it's even more stressful. But yes, I did have an experience where I met someone and I thought that we really connected and things were like going really well. And I got like all the good vibes. And then poof, like he like vanished and like without warning. And I think it's probably more common than we think.
Oh, for
it's
sure.
Just I don't really this is just recently me dipping myself back into the dating pool, but I mean it was really disheartening. Like I was big mad, like I remember just thinking like you could nothing.
The thing that was unique about your experience as well as my own experience is that in both of our situations, the guy, we both had this sort of like friendly, also outside of any potential relationship. And I should say that neither Danielle or I ever actually met these guys in person. This was just communication we were having like on the phone, talking on the phone, texting. So, it's whatever. But what was unique about both of our situations is that we had these conversations with these guys like, hey, like we need to be friends even if we're not romantically, if there's not chemistry here. Like this is just a really cool friendship. And that was said by both, myself to the guy to me, Danielle to the guy to Danielle. And so I think the thing that was so baffling for both you and I going through those experiences was like, I think we maybe a little naively, but genuinely believed that these guys would be our friends. I mean, I was honestly probably more excited about being friends with this guy than I was like even trying to date him because we just had like a really fun, bantery friendship type dynamic. So I think that that's the thing that was so baffling for both you and I, because it was like, but I thought you were cooler than this. Like I thought we were going to at least be friends.
Right. And, and not only that, but it's like, sir, I spent time on you that I don't even have. Like, I was like, sir, you know how many things I could have been doing besides talking to you?
Yeah.
Right.
Thank you.
I guess when I think about it though, ghosting, and you've written about this, it really does say a lot more about the person. But me being the person that I am, I was not going to go out quietly. Like, so of course I had to let him know.
Well, but can we talk about, this is hilarious. We have to talk about how you let him know. Who drafted the tag stream?
You did. And I mean, who can say that? I mean, I literally broke up with a dude I wasn't dating by my favorite author. So, I mean, the ghosting experience, it ended well, in my opinion.
Yes, it is a service that I provide my readers. I will handle your breakups for you. I know I'm just the coolest author friend ever.
Absolutely.
But I do
your going rates on your website.
Right? I mean, y'all, this is like maybe I need to like create a paying service out of this.
Yeah.
$50 for a text, $100 for like a video chat, something like that.
Yes, girl. Yes, I like the entrepreneur. I never can say that word, but you know what I'm trying to say. I like the spirit. But something I wanted to talk about. I don't know what's going on with Kathy. I think that maybe you're not muted or something. I don't know what's happening here. It like you keep popping up. But anyway, something I wanted to talk about that I've talked about, on my platforms before, and I want to write a more in-depth blog about this, is the energy shift. Now, both of you know what I'm talking about when I say the energy shift, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So what is the energy? Tiffany, what is the energy shift?
Oh boy. It's, and it comes in so many different forms. It could be, the slow burn that
Yes.
Sudden, just like goes from out of nowhere. It's the love bombing that I have certainly been a victim of.
Yes.
And it's the, where did it go? How do some people turn it off like a light switch?
Yes.
And I mean, I've been in those scenarios, and just to be open about my experience with dating is that I've literally not really been in a serious relationship. I haven't been in really a relationship period, except for my high school boyfriend who broke up with me on New Year's Day. And
Oh,
yeah,
well, we don't
and
like him.
we don't, because then he went on to date my friend. So
Oh, wow. Okay.
yeah, so I mean, I haven't been in relationships, but I've been in many a situationships.
Yes. Or
And
textationship. That's even the level under situationship, a textationship,
oh,
when
and
you're
let me
literally
tell
just
ya,
all texting and it never turns into, anything real. So, yes.
if you don't have that on your phone plan, you need to be charging these dudes who are just, texting you and thinking that that is a relationship. So,
Yes.
just, you know, when there's so many different kinds of energies that you can have with a person you might be interested in, but unless the communication is clear about where's this going, what is
Right.
it that either of us are seeking, then I mean, I don't know if I should say it so bluntly, but are you wasting your time? Are you
Yes.
wasting my time? And I mean, that's love, that's energy that could be going into something more valuable, whether it be a relationship, your career, your friends, just,
So good.
I want relationships that actually have a real value to them, reciprocally. And um,
Yes. And
I
I
mean,
think, like, talking about, okay, so there's a chapter in the book. If you haven't yet had a chance to get the book, it's about ghosting and about a guy who back in 2021-ish, it was about a year or so ago, he got vaccinated for me and then ghosted me 3 days later, which it was totally fine because he ended up just being like a walking red flag. So it was like so totally okay. But it was just so baffling because you're going to go through the trouble to get a vaccination to hang out with someone, and then you're going to ghost them 3 days later. So I think the energy shifts, when I talk about the energy shifts, like Tiffany touched on, it's when you've been communicating with someone on a regular basis, you have sort of a dynamic that you're accustomed to, and then all of a sudden, like Tiffany said, either slowly it tapers off, or sometimes, like in Danielle's case, he called you one night, the next day, poof, he was gone. So the energy shift is when men think sometimes that they're being like super sly and like we're not catching on to what's going on, but we pick up as women, we have such powerful intuition. Thank you, Jesus, for our female intuition. We pick up on those changes, and we know when the communication starts to slow, when the engagement isn't quite there, when the tone changes, when the regularity of them contacting you changes. We pick up on that. And I think in that, because you go from like attention, you're just like this constant communication. It's almost like a vacuum, because then they just remove it, whether it's slowly, a little bit at a time, or all at once. And I think that the human inclination in that moment is to start asking, like the what if starts rolling. You're like, oh my gosh, what if I did something wrong? What if I caused this? What if I'm not enough for this guy? What if I did something to scare him off? What if I didn't do enough to keep him around? What if? But like Danielle said earlier, I think the thing that is so important to remember is that ghosting has very little to do with you. It is usually entirely about the other person. There's an emotional maturity that's lacking there. There is a sense of, honestly, decency that's lacking there, a sense of honesty that's lacking there, and just an inability to carry on adult communication, whether it be even through a text message to say, hey, I'm just not feeling it anymore. I'm sorry, I'm going to move on to this connection, because that's how I handle, the parting of ways. When I've started to form any sort of a meaningful connection with someone, whether we've met in person or whether we've just been regularly texting and talking on the phone, if I decide that that connection is not going to, continue, I let the person know, because I think that that's the decent, honorable thing to do. So I think that, I guess in your case, especially Danielle, because you just went through this, and I watched you go through it, and you were, really sad for a minute, and then you were a little ticked off for a minute, and then you just kind of were like, okay, I'm good. So how did you pull yourself out of that cycle, or did you even have that cycle of what ifs?
No, I don't think well, of course I had the cycle of like, at first I was like, what's really going on? Like, what if something happened to him? Like, are you alive? Like, what's, but I think that, for me, and this is just my personality. And if people who know me will definitely back this up. I don't really, I'm a little bit savage. Like, I'm a whole lot of Jesus, but I am a little bit savage. So I think once I like kind of feel the like sad part, then it doesn't even turn to anger. It almost just kind of turns to indifference.
Yeah.
And so I think for me, it was just kind of like, okay, well, this is done, because had he at that point reached back out, like he wouldn't have gotten very far. So, I mean, I think it's important though, because I did have those
Somebody
moments.
said, Danielle, we're from the south side of the kingdom.
And yes, correct.
Oh my
Jesus
gosh,
knows. I mean,
fantastic.
Jesus flipped the table. I mean, I'm just saying.
Let's flip the table.
I'm just saying, I did have those moments when I started to kind of, question my worth a little bit, just in the sense of like, well, was it me? Did he see a picture of me on my social media? Or because, we all look good on social media, but, at the end of the day, I feel like ghosting is going to happen more and more and more. And unfortunately, the traditional way to meet people is difficult. I mean, we all work. Some of us are moms, some of us are careers, some of us. So it's like we almost, we turn to online dating because it's convenient and it's a little bit exciting. It's a whole lot discouraging. Yeah. But I think it's just important for us to remember that there's going to probably be a lot more ghosters out there. We just have to educate ourselves on how to handle it.
Yes, and actually, I just saw a question come through, and we have to acknowledge this, because it said from Pam, how long were you ladies in these relationships before they ghosted? I want to clarify, these were not relationships. These were like, because when you're doing online dating, and Tiffany can relate, Danielle can relate, anyone who's been on a dating app can relate, these were not relationships. These were like early textationships. They were like, because that's how it'll go. A lot of times on dating apps, you'll connect with someone and you'll be like hot and heavy with the communication for a few days, and then all of a sudden they'll taper off, and that their attention is elsewhere. So that's kind of, I'm getting like feedback or something, but that's how it goes. So these were not, so by no means were these relationships, by no means were we heartbroken. It was honestly more just like, what the heck just happened? That's kind of what ghosting leaves you with. It's kind of like, what the heck just happened here? Because I genuinely believed that this was going to be like a cool friendship, if nothing else. And like, I thought you were cooler than this, and you weren't, and that's okay. And life goes on. I mean, life very much goes on. I have, since had, a more positive experience with the dating apps. But it's fine. That's the point that I want to get across, honestly, tonight, that with dating apps, you can get stuck constantly. You can let yourself get paralyzed by the what ifs of ghosting, because ghosting is unfortunately going to be a part of dating in this modern world that we live in. I wish that it wasn't. It sucks. It is, as someone put it to me earlier, it's inhumane. It is not a mature or an appropriate way to end a relationship in any way, shape, or form, but it is something that we're going to have to contend with. So we have to learn to remember and hold on to the truths that we know about ourselves, and that we're not going to get stuck in this what if of, oh my gosh, what if I had done this differently? Or what if I'm not this? Or what if I'm not that? it's not about you. Ghosting
Yeah.
is always about the other person. So I just felt like it was really important to make that point. And we do need to wrap up here in a second, but before we do, I have to touch on the Frosted Flakes thing because a lot of people have commented on it.
Oh my goodness.
So Danielle and I were texting the other night, and she didn't even know I was going to do this because I didn't tell her, but I screenshotted the text because it was so good, and I posted it on all my Facebook pages, so you can find it if you want to see the full text. But she's talking about just like men who are ghosters essentially, and she says, she's just going through the whole thing about they're not ready for us, we're extraordinary women. And then she says, I'm also not scared to send the long text, because a lot of us, when we're finding our way out of a textationship, we're like, okay, we need some closure, we need a period on the end of the sentence, so I need to text this person and just say, hey, I'm acknowledging the fact that what you did wasn't cool, and I wish you had handled this differently, and you could have just told me that you weren't feeling it anymore. So I guess the whole point that Danielle was making is like, if I need to send a long text, because I'm always like, oh, I don't want to send a guy a scroll, I feel like it's just overly dramatic. And the point that Danielle was making was, I'm not afraid to send the long text. If they think it's a lot, so was the time I wasted on them. So here's my novel, Frosted Flakes. Ha ha ha. Because that's what they are, Frosted Flakes. Sweet and misleading on the outside, but then still flakes underneath the sugar. So mic drop. That was like such a hilarious moment, the Frosted Flakes moment. So Danielle, I don't know if you want to expound upon your Frosted Flakes mic drop moment, but it was a big hit. So
I don't know. I just really came to me naturally. It was morning, and I can pretty much relate anything to food because that's a consistent joy in my life. I really don't know, but in that very moment, that's really just all I could think of is how, like, you see a Frosted Flake, it's got this outer coating, and we're not even talking about like looks, but just they come off as like so great, like the sugary part
and delightful
and great, and
yeah,
and then all of
they're
a sudden,
great
when it's sitting in that milk for a little while, the frost, it's gone.
It's gone.
And it's even mushy, like it's not even good anymore, really. And that's just kind of how, I don't know where it came from, but I'm glad it did, because
yes,
I don't, yeah, it was just a moment, and I'm glad.
Before we close out, I did want to ask Tiffany, what one piece of advice, because you did the 6-month thing, you set a boundary. What one piece of advice would you give someone who has never been on, because I have a lot of ladies who have never been on online dating. Part of their reservation is, I haven't really ever been in a serious relationship, and you are right there walking in their shoes. So for people who are a little bit nervous and unsure about the dating app world, what would you tell them?
Oh, good question. For me, you really got to start with yourself.
Yeah.
And know why you're really getting into this.
Yeah.
If you're doing it because you don't want to be alone, get a puppy. If you're doing it because you genuinely want connection and there are life moments you want to enjoy with somebody, those are probably some better reasons. Yeah. But just know that, boy, are you gonna have to dig through some trolls to find the right one. But I would say you have to have a bit of patience and peace with yourself, and know you're not gonna hit a home run every time. But if it doesn't work out, that's okay. And also, don't just make it about the dating apps. Mix it up.
Yeah.
Like, I think some of the best dating advice I've heard is, if you want to get out there and meet people, get out there and do. The first step you might want to take is doing what you love to do just by yourself, and do it out someplace among other people. I like doing jewelry, making necklaces, and maybe I'll go to a park and just people watch. Maybe there's some handsome men walking around Piedmont Park in Atlanta.
Yes.
But I mean, I'm saying this as much for myself as I am for everyone else, that you know, the way to meet people is to get out there and meet people. And it's
Yes.
nervous for all parties involved. And, you know, I'm hoping to make that big step in the near future to finally, you know, approach that guy that maybe I've had a crush on.
You can do
and-
it. I firmly
and-
believe you can do it.
Thank you. It's just I'm getting to a point now where I'm tired of even holding myself back of,
Yes.
you know, thinking that, you know,
That's
oh, that
good.
guy's cute, but he's probably isn't going to be into me. Like,
Yeah.
if he's not into me, whatever, move on to the next one. But
Amen.
I would say just go into it, one, knowing who you are and what it is you want, and knowing there might be some bumps and bruises along the way. But as we all know, nothing in life comes easy. So
Y'all need to check the chats because there's lots of comments coming y'all's way too. Somebody said, Danielle, you've changed their entire perspective on dating. They're going to send the long text. And Ashley Dawn wants to meet up with you, Tiffany, in Atlanta. So we've got all sorts of just goodness happening in the chat. So that's actually a good way to segue into just really quickly. I wanted to answer a couple of questions, but before I do that, I want to first of all thank you, Tiffany and Danielle, for just being willing to share and just take it all in like a humorous way and be open and vulnerable. And you know, this dating app, online dating, modern dating journey is not for the faint of heart. So it just gives me great comfort to know that I have my single sisters on the journey with me. And just thank you for being a part of tonight. And for your friendship, of course. But I did want to announce our final winner of the night. The final prize of the night goes to Susan Mackey. Yay, Susan, my sister in matching tattoos. So Susan, you will be getting an email in the next couple of days with more information about how to claim your prize. So I'm going to see if I can check the little Q&A box here. I'm going to answer just a few of these questions before we close out tonight, you guys. Are you planning your next book yet? Heather is asking. Yes, I have several ideas. Haven't landed on a firm one yet. One potential idea I've been working on is a book about friendship, because I think friendship is something that, especially as an adult, is something that needs to be examined and talked about. And yeah, so that's kind of one idea I'm batting around, but stay tuned. I will have more information. Jennifer wants to know when the audiobook will be available. Please tell my publisher. Hello, Baker. We have not had a chance to record the audiobook yet. We've been trying to work out the details. I'm hoping that's going to happen sooner rather than later. So stay tuned for the audiobook, because I really, really want to record an audiobook for this book. Susan is asking, did he reply, Danielle? I can answer that for Danielle. He did not reply. The ghoster did not reply to Danielle's text. So to the left, bye, sir. Somebody's asking about what dating apps have y'all used. I have used in the past Bumble, Hinge, Match, and Facebook Dating. Ironically, the most successful experience I think I've had has been through Facebook dating. I thought it was going to be like a dumpster fire. So that's my experience. Let's see. Someone said, can you plan a women's retreat so we can meet everyone? I hope to make that happen, like sooner rather than later. That's a desire of my heart. Robin, hey, Robin is asking, hang on, I can't see the question because it's covered up. Before you wrote, I don't know how to make it not covered up. Hang on. Okay, wait, I moved it over. Before you read the book, your first book, did you know you wanted to have such close friendships and relationships with your readers? What do you feel is the best thing about being so close with your readers? That's such a great question, Robin. And we still need to meet because you're in the Nashville area. So you're my next, future BFF. I had no idea that I was going to connect with my readers as powerfully as I have. That has been like just such a true gift from the heavens. It was never even a thought of mine. And then as I started to interact with people and just get to know you guys and your hearts and hear your stories, I was like, if we all lived in the same city, we would all be best friends forever. So Yeah, I had no idea. It's been one of the greatest surprises of my life. I've had readers come and stay at my house. I've met readers when I was on vacation and they just happened to be vacationing. I text with my readers. I talk on the phone to my readers. I absolutely adore my readers. So I had absolutely no idea that I was going to end up being such close friends with everyone, but it has been just the great honor of my life. So I'm trying to make sure I get to anything else. Everyone else's. Someone said, when you say send the long text, is that the one where you get the closure? I don't think you're always going to get closure. I think closure is a myth. I think you give yourself closure. And part of giving yourself closure is determining what that's going to look like. And if that means sending a long text, then girl, you send the long text. Say the things that you need to say and get off your chest. And don't be afraid to say them, because you're being true to yourself and you're doing it for you. You're not doing it for them. It has absolutely nothing to do with them. So let's see. Someone says, so how do you overcome your insecurities when you are on these apps or with meeting guys in person? I think just by realizing that we all have insecurities, including the guys, and nobody's perfect. Nobody is perfect. Nobody has, the perfect anything. We're all just human, and that's fine. And there's somebody out there looking for exactly what you've got. And every time you meet somebody in person, they're feeling just as nervous and insecure as you are. So just be aware of that, and just also be confident in who you are, because whatever shape, size, age, whatever you are perfect just as you are. So be confident in that and rock that. And honestly, confidence is the most attractive trait a person can have. So if you walk in that date with just nothing but confidence, you're going to blow his mind. That's my best advice. So, okay, guys, we went really, really, really long tonight. Thank you so much for those of you who stuck around. Thank you for joining, for being a part of this evening. Thank you to my publisher, Baker, for making this evening happen. Thank you especially to Ashley, Dawn, Kathy, Tiffany, and Danielle for being my friends and my sisters, and for just taking time out of your evening to be a part of this event. And your stories are just all wonderful and unique. And I'm so happy that I got to introduce just a few of my wonderful readers to a few more of my wonderful readers. So if you haven't yet had a chance to purchase the book, I hope that you will do so. Turn Toward the Sun, Releasing What If and Embracing What Is. If you order it from Baker Books, and the link will be in the chat or on my Facebook page or on Baker's Facebook page, it's all over the place. If you order the book before Monday from Baker Books, before this coming Monday, you're actually going to get a signed book plate to go in the cover of your book. So it'll be a signed copy of the book. So if you order the book, and it's also 30% off plus free shipping if you live in the United States. So that's if you order the book directly from Baker Bookhouse by Monday. Thank you all again. I adore you all. This has been such a joy and such a wonderful evening, and I'm just honored that you chose to spend it with me. So thank you and good night.